Hello everyone, welcome to Academia Blockchain. Here is Chris Pacia. He is a backend developer for Open Bazaar, which is a very important decentralized marketplace. So Chris, welcome to our channel. Yes, and well, we're going to talk about something very interesting that you mentioned in your conference here in Acapulco. That was the situation that is happening in the open protocols. How do they finance? What is the challenge? What is the situation behind the financing of developers?
Yeah, so the challenge is a lot of this software kind of fits under the category of like a public good, in the sense that it's software that you develop and there's not really it's like infrastructure where there's not a clear like profit opportunity or opportunity to sell it and make revenue off of it. These type of projects are typically difficult to fund. When they get big enough, they tend to attract some funding from the businesses that rely on them. So like Bitcoin's kind of starting to get big enough to the point where different businesses are starting to throw some money towards development of Bitcoin, and that's pretty healthy, I would say, from the Bitcoin perspective. A lot of the other coins are still kind of small. Some of them, like Dash and Zcash, have taken to using some of the block reward to pay developers, basically, which is an interesting model because the coins are being created every couple of blocks. Some other coins, they have like just an initial distribution to like the founders or whatever. So like Ethereum received a lot of coins up front, and that helps finance development. But a lot of them are trying to play with using different coins, and in Bitcoin Cash, which is the one I'm working on, there's a proposal to use part of the block reward to do that, to pay developers. In fact, just before I came down here, there was a big announcement. One of the development teams, ABC, said that they're just going to go ahead and implement it, and that's causing a big stink right now. Reddit's like on fire. So it's controversial. Some people are like very purist and say, we shouldn't be funding, tinkering with the block reward or incentives and things like that. And so, I mean, there's good arguments to be made there. If it's going to risk, the ultimate risk of something like this would be like the community splits over it, and a split it's like kind of like a nuclear option. It's sort of very bad for the growth of the coin. So it's not really something that you want to provoke. You can really help it, but we'll see what happens in BCH.
Yeah, that's a very interesting proposal. What each BCH did, it kind of let the community see what is happening behind open protocols. Yeah. There is a necessity for money to pay developers, and well, there are many options on the table.
Yeah.
Do you have any your preferable option? What is your favorite?
Well, my favorite would be just to rely on funding from businesses and stuff like that. It's voluntary donations, but it does require the system get big enough to a point where you have a large enough amount of money in there and using it. The Linux operating system finances itself, that way. It's very robust ecosystem that way. I think that works. I think there's also possibility of developers could maybe write, let's say your wallet software, maybe you pay yourself a little bit of the fee of every transaction, but you need enough transactions to make that happen. At a penny per transaction, it takes a lot of transactions to add up to just one person's salary, so, but that's another possible option there.
Yeah, let's see what happens in the future. I think maybe we will see the financing put itself in a clear way in the future. Yeah. So please, can you tell us about the Haven app?
Yeah, Haven is it's a mobile version of Open Bazaar. We kind of went with the name Haven. It's whereas Open Bazaar is probably more of a pure open source app. This is I work for a company called OB1. So Haven is maybe a little bit more of an OB1 product, I guess you could say. And Haven, it's probably kind of has to be like that a little bit, because these app stores, particularly Apple, Android is a little less concerned, but Apple in particular it's very strict with what they allow on their app stores, and they wouldn't allow like a pure Open Bazaar on the Apple Store.
You need to be able to censor.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, they are very much on the lookout for anything that remotely looks like cannabis or anything like this. You know, CBD oil.
How big is illegal activity on Open Bazaar?
It's not super big. I don't know, even maybe as little as 1%, I'm not sure. But I mean, it's even stuff like they don't even want like CBD oil, which is not illegal. Yes. But it's that, you know, they want to control, you know, what is being sold. Apple really wants that control. Other things like digital goods, like files and songs, Apple wants to take a cut of every transaction. Yes. And so like we can't do a cut of every transaction on Open Bazaar because we're paying with cryptocurrency peer-to-peer. Mm-hmm. So like we had to disable like digital goods on the Haven app, things like that, just to comply with it. So that was the reason why we went with just a different branding for it. It's still like mostly Open Bazaar, just a little bit more of a curated experience there.
Okay, so let's elaborate a bit more on Open Bazaar, because I'm a big fan. We are a big fan of Open Bazaar. So what is the reason behind Open Bazaar?
Yeah, Open Bazaar is it's a peer-to-peer e-commerce marketplace. So if you think of like eBay, if you're familiar with this, you know, these platforms, you're using their website, their servers, and they're in a position to dictate what you're allowed to sell, what you're not allowed to sell, very much like Apple. So the idea behind Open Bazaar is to have an application that can bring buyers and sellers together without going through that kind of middleman. And then you kind of have a pure free market in almost like the purest sense of the word, where you know, people can sell without restrictions and receive their money. Obviously they get paid in cryptocurrency. And yeah, it's trying to, Open Bazaar is trying to be that kind of little niche of freedom on the internet, you know, and it's growing slowly. It's getting up there. I think we still have some work to do to kind of to really kind of match like the feature set and everything you see on eBay and other websites. But I think once we get there, I think it'll be pretty good.
Well, this leads correctly to like my next question, which is, what do you think are the challenges of decentralized economies in the future, like Open Bazaar?
So there's a very how do I want to put it? So in our case, there's a little bit of like a chicken and egg problem, because we're trying to build like a two-sided marketplace. So like vendors want to sell products on a marketplace where there's a lot of buyers, and buyers want to sell where they have a lot of options to buy from, or they want to purchase where they have a lot of options. So kind of like creating a compelling use case for us on both sides there is probably the biggest challenge, because it's very compelling from a vendor perspective. Like, hey, I can sell this, no one can tell me what to sell. eBay is not going to take 10% of my sale. PayPal's not going to take a percentage of my sale. So there's a very compelling use case for vendors. For buyers, it's a little bit harder to say, hey, you should shop on Open Bazaar rather than on Amazon, right? Because Amazon's just so convenient for many people. So
you can buy weed there.
Yeah. If you can find some weed, that might be.
Have you felt any heat from the control freaks at government?
Not really personally. So they did list Open Bazaar in like, it was Europol listed it in like their annual criminal threat assessment one year. They mentioned it and said these type of decentralized marketplaces like Open Bazaar are a potential future threat, so that we have to look out for. But then they had another report they published the following year, or maybe the year after, and they basically said, look, we mentioned Open Bazaar in the past as a possible future threat, and basically it looks like people are sticking with the centralized marketplaces. So it said we're kind of like taking them off the threat list, because that still is the case. People are very happy to continue using the traditional darknet markets for whatever reason. I think Open Bazaar does change the risk model there a little bit for people, where most of the risk on a marketplace revolves on the marketplace operator, whereas with Open Bazaar you kind of are the operator of the marketplace in a sense, because you're participating in this peer-to-peer network. So I think it changes the risk model for people who are trying to do illicit stuff, maybe in a way that's not to their benefit.
Yeah, and one last question, like, let's go back to the topic of blockchain because this is a blockchain related channel. So do you think blockchain can help Open Bazaar in the future in any way?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're using just the blockchain for payments, obviously, like coins and stuff. I think one of the challenges there with a blockchain is like scalability. So like some people have, you know, if you put all your data in the blockchain, that would be great for like a data availability, you know, aspect of it. Because one of the bigger challenges with Open Bazaar is making sure the data stays live on the network and people can find it. If you just dumped it in the blockchain, the data is always going to be there. You don't have to worry about being able to find it. But now you have a lot of there's overhead interacting with the blockchain. You have to worry about the scalability of the blockchain itself at that point. So there's trade-offs there to what extent you can use it for data. Obviously, payments are a great use case. I mean, we make use of the like multi-signature features for escrow. So like when people buy stuff, you have the option of putting your funds in like a 2 of 3 address where there's a third party, we call it a moderator, but they're like an arbitrator. So if you have a dispute, you can have this guy basically decide who he's going to side with and settle it. So things like that work really well too in kind of a decentralized context.
Yeah.
I see an IPFS sticker on your laptop.
Yeah.
Is that where Open Bazaar is going as far as
Yeah, so we do
data
use,
storage?
we do use IPFS under the hood right now. Yeah. We're looking. We'd like to be able to. I mean, the holy grail, I would say, is to be able. They're developing this JavaScript version of IPFS to run in the browser, and it would be amazing if we could get a full peer-to-peer Open Bazaar installation just in the browser. Yeah, so it's not where basically you go to the website, it only serves up the code, and then the code goes out and starts making peer-to-peer connections and does everything in the browser. That would kind of be really nice. Yeah, it would ease, because right now Open Bazaar is a downloadable app on the desktop. I think for like having more mainstream users, getting it in the browser would be a big help.
Well, I really think these technologies are the ones that need to succeed in the future. Without these technologies, the future can be very censorable, full of censorship.
Yeah.
So this is what really needs to happen. And thanks, Chris, for this interview. And I wish the best for your project.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Say hello to the community in Ecuador.
In all of Latin America.
Yeah, okay.
And
Very nice. Nice. Thank you.
En el futuro, las cadenas de bloques y las criptomonedas serán tan comunes como el Internet. La mejor inversión es tu educación. Por tan solo $20, accede a nuestros cursos y a nuestro club, donde estudiamos el funcionamiento, el mercado y el impacto de esta tecnología. Entra a academiablockchain.com y a www.academiablockchain.club